Hi everybody, Matthew Turnage here. Today I thought I'd rank the Beatles US albums. And to determine which ones to include, I decided to start with the US albums box set as a starting point. Firstly, because it only includes albums that were released while the Beatles were together and active. So later things like compilations like rock and roll music or the U.S. rarities from 1980, those sorts of things are not. I'm not going to include those. I also decided to leave off the Beatles Story. Let's be honest, we all know it would be last if it was included, and it's not really an album of music. It's a documentary album, and I mean, basically, it was a cash grab at the time, and it's really only of interest these days as a historical oddity, I guess. So I didn't want to really include that in the rankings. But I did decide though to include one album that wasn't in the U.S. albums box set, and that's the U.S. Magical Mystery Tour, which of course has been included in the official canon of Beatles albums since they were standardized in 1987. But it was originally a Capitol Records creation, just like some of these other albums were. All right, so that gives me a list of 13 albums. Also, I decided I'm basically considering VJ's introducing the Beatles and Capitals. The early Beatles is the same, even though there's one more song on introducing the Beatles, and also the order is different. They're functionally the same thing, so I'm not including both of those. They would rank in the same spot either way. So we'll start the ranking with, so I got 13 albums here. Number 13 is going to be the early Beatles. Of course, this was the Capitol release, the VJ release. Introducing the Beatles came out first, and then Capitol wanted to put those songs out on a record on their label once the VJ period, the period they had where they could sell Introducing the Beatles, had expired. This comes in last because even though I really like Please Please Me, if you've seen my ranking of the UK albums, it does come in pretty low for me. I think it's got a lot of good songs. It's just that the Beatles got so much better later. Even though, like I said, I would really rank Introducing the Beatles and the early Beatles in the same place, what hurts the early Beatles is the jumbled up running order on this one. Twist and Shout is the second track on the album. I mean, to me, it's definitely a closer. The song's such a showstopper, it should come in last. So the sequencing is really kind of funny on this. But a lot of great early songs, but again, they did so much better later. So Early Beatles is last at number 13. Number 12, I've got A Hard Day's Night. Of course, this was originally released on United Artists Records, and later Capitol did pick up the distribution rights to it later in the 70s. A Hard Day's Night, the UK version, is one of my favorite Beatles albums, particularly a favorite of the early years. The US version is enjoyable for what it is, which is a true film soundtrack. It's got the songs that the Beatles performed in the film, plus some instrumentals. And some of the instrumentals are pretty good, particularly Ringo's theme, which is an instrumental version of This Boy. I like that one a good bit. It's a fine album, but it pulls in low because of the amount of non-Beatles instrumentals, even though they're based on Beatles songs. I have to drop it down the list for that. So that's number 12. Number 11 will be the U.S. Revolver. Now, of course, the only difference here between this and the UK version are 3 John Lennon songs were dropped off because they had been previously issued on Yesterday and Today. That really hurts this album in comparison to the UK album. I think if we were judging this not knowing that, it would probably rank higher, at least on my list. But knowing what's left off of here does impact it. And plus, even if you don't necessarily know, what you do obviously realize is how heavily weighted this is towards Paul. There are only 2 John songs that make the album, which is really unbalanced. And I'm a Paul guy, but still, I think you need a bit more balance between the 2 on the albums. And even though personally I'm not a huge fan of 2 of the songs that they left off, Dr. Robert, I never really got that much into, and Your Bird Can Sing is a song that I never liked as much as a lot of people seem to. The other track that was left off, I'm Only Sleeping, is one of my favorites from John in this period, so I really hate to miss it. But still, it's a good listen, but it's not as good as it should have been. All right, so number 10, Meet the Beatles. Now, I just re-listened to all these albums within the last 2 days, and going into it, before I started listening to it, as I sort of had in my head where I thought some of these might fall, I thought this one would actually come in a good bit higher, because I think they did a really good job with this one. They basically took the UK with the Beatles, took off almost all the cover songs. They did leave one on here, Till There Was You, and then they added the number 1 single, I Want to Hold Your Hand, the song that was the US B-side, I Saw Her Standing There, and then the UK B-side, This Boy. So you get, out of the 12 tracks on here, you get 11 that were written by the Beatles, so it really showcases their writing. It's a really good collection. I think, having all those cover songs off, you don't really miss them, in the experience of listening through. Plus that great opening 3 songs you get that weren't on with the Beatles. Make it a really good listen, but again, as I was going through, re-listening to them all again, I just found that I liked so many of the other ones better. So Meet the Beatles comes in at number 10. Number 9, Beatles 6. This is another strong one that I enjoyed. At one point thought I might rank it a little bit higher. It's a mix of tracks that had been on the UK Beatles for Sale, along again with some non-UK album tracks, and a bit of a preview of Help we get with Dizzy Miss Lizzie. You Like Me Too Much is on here also. It's a really strong album, but a particular favorite of mine on here is Bad Boy, which is one of my all-time favorite Beatles cover songs. So I really enjoy listening to this album, if for no other reason that Bad Boy is on here. But it's a good collection overall. Coming in at number 9. Number 8, just ahead of it, is the US version of Help. Now this one comes in a little bit higher than the US Hard Day's Night does, even though it's similar in that you get the Beatles songs from the movie plus the instrumentals. It's just that I really like the Beatles songs on here, and I think the instrumentals on here are really nice too. I think I like them a little bit more than the ones on A Hard Day's Night. Also on here you get that sort of James Bond style opening before the title track. So I've got the US Help at number 8. Number 7, I've got Magical Mystery Tour. Thought about putting this one a little bit higher. Side 2 of it is about as perfect a side as you can get with those great 67 single A and B sides. I also close out side 1 with one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs, I Am the Walrus. What kind of pulls us down is side 1 is just a little bit uneven for me, and I did a full review of this album recently if you want more details on what I think about it. But Your Mother Should Know, I never was super crazy about. It's a good song. Then you've got Flying is fine. Blue Jay Way, I'm not super crazy about. So that pulls this down a little bit in the rankings, but a brilliant job taking of what was available and turning it into an album by Capitol Records, and deservedly made a part of the regular canon these days. All right, number 6 is another really nice compilation that that was put together this time really at the direction of Alan Klein for Capitol, and that's Hey Jude. Um, this one rounds up quite a few odds and ends. We get a couple of songs from A Hard Day's Night that had been on the United Artists album but had never been included on a Capitol album before. So that hurts the album a little bit, I think, in that we've got songs spanning such a long period of time. But it's got so many great tracks, later non-album tracks like Lady Madonna and Rain, Don't Let Me Down, and of course Hey Jude and Revolution. So it's a really good listen. So number 6 is Hey Jude. Number 5, the Beatles' second album. So all those cover songs that were left off Meet the Beatles show up here, along with you get She Loves You and its B-side I'll Get You. Plus there's some tracks off the Long Tall Sally EP, Long Tall Sally and I Call Your Name. It is a really strong collection of rock tunes. I mean, it's solid rock and roll from start to finish, and it's just a really fun listening experience. This is one example of Capitol really pulling the songs that they had together and giving a really solid theme to make a very cohesive album, I think. So Beatles' second album comes in at number 5. Number 4, Beatles 65. Most of this comes from Beatles for Sale. We got 8 tracks from that, and I think it's probably mostly the best 8. You get those great 3 songs that original tunes that kick off that album with No Reply, I'm a Loser, Babies in Black. You get a couple of great cover songs off of Beatles for Sale with Rock and Roll Music and Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. Honey Don't is another good cover on there. And they throw in one of my favorite songs from A Hard Day's Night, which really is only here because that was just left over. They hadn't got around to releasing it yet, which is I'll Be Back. And then you get the A and B sides of the single, I Feel Fine and She's a Woman. One knock I do have against that is both those songs are absolutely soaked in reverb, as Capitol like to do from time to time. And sometimes the added reverb I don't mind. To me on those tracks, it's so thick, it's distracting, And if I'd heard these versions first, maybe it would appeal to me more. But I just got so used to hearing the UK versions. That's kind of what I came up with getting into the Beatles after the catalog was standardized. That it really kind of distracts me a little bit when I hear this version, but still I like these songs paired with those songs. So Beatles 65 is a good collection coming in at number 4. Number 3, I've got Yesterday and Today. To be honest, before I started re-listening these to rank them, I thought this one would come in quite a bit lower because again, I'm so used to the UK albums that it's hard for me to think of this as anything but a hodgepodge, because you get songs pulled together from 4 different UK albums, and here you've got a couple songs, or excuse me, 4 sources. It's be 3 UK albums because you got songs from Help, Rubber Soul, and Revolver, and then you've also got from a non-album single, you've got We Can Work It Out and Day Tripper. But really, as I was listening to it again earlier today, the songs that are on here are so good. They actually hang together a little bit better than you might think. But each of these songs are really strong. Well, I say that, as I said earlier, I'm not a huge fan of Dr. Robert. And Your Bird Can Sing I like, but don't love. But Drive My Car is one of my absolute favorite Beatles songs. It leads this collection off. You get Yesterday, you get Nowhere Man, you get We Can Work It Out and Day Tripper, If I Needed Someone. Really strong collection here. So Yesterday and Today comes in at number 3. Number 2, Something New. I mentioned earlier that I'm a big fan of the UK A Hard Day's Night. This has got 8 tracks off of that on here, all great songs. I'll Cry Instead, Things We Said Today, When I Get Home. And then we also get a couple of songs from the Long Tall Sally EP, Slow Down and Matchbox. We get Come Give Me Deine Hand, the German I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is a bit of an oddity. I almost bumped it down a little bit for that, but really I just enjoy listening to this one. This is one of my go-tos when I'm in the mood for a US album. So Something New comes in at number 2 for me. And I actually thought going into it I might rank it number 1, but listening to him again, I just couldn't deny the US Rubber Soul as the number 1 US album. Of course, it's largely the UK Rubber Soul. They pull 4 tracks off of there that all ended up on Yesterday and Today, and they put in 2 songs from the UK version of Help to open each side, opening side 1 with I've Just Seen a Face and side 2 with It's Only Love. So you get a really strong folk rock vibe from the way the songs are selected on this one. It gives it a very strong identity. I still think overall I slightly prefer the UK Rubber Soul, but as a listening experience, this is a very satisfying listening experience. And of course, it would have been the US version of Rubber Soul that Brian Wilson would have heard back in around the end of '65, early '66, that inspired him to create Pet Sounds. So we've got to give it the nod for that. So that's my rankings of the Beatles US albums. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, which ones are your favorites and which ones you might not care for. And thanks for watching.